Okay, can Keir Starmer survive more resignations over a ceasefire in Gaza? 0207 862 2222. Tell us what you think. 8 Labour frontbenchers resigned last night over the party's refusal to call for a ceasefire in the Middle East. Senior MPs, such as quite well-known ones, Jess Phillips, Naz Shah, stood down from the shadow cabinet after being warned they should back the party's position or face the sack. And it all happened as the Israeli Defense Force released footage which appeared to be from the Shifa hospital in Gaza, this huge hospital that they've been near to for quite some days. Israel says soldiers have delivered medical supplies and they claim identified a Hamas operational center on the site. Hamas denied that. Western reporters have so far been unable to verify the claims by either side. So, Nick, coming back to Starmer, that's quite a lot of turbulence for him, isn't it, these resignations?
It is a lot of turbulence for him. I think that was inevitable. And I think, in my view, he's demonstrating he's a man of principle. He's clearly following what the Commons does. The motion was passed by quite a sizable majority. And I actually think this will be the making of him. I think people will actually take their hats off to him and think, particularly after his relationship with Corbyn, here now he's maybe learned, maybe just seeing things in a different way and thought, no, this is what needs to happen for those reasons, and I'm drawing a strict line and I'm not going to tolerate any deviance. So full marks to him.
It's whether he's right or not, isn't it, fundamentally? And it's about whether actually that, generally speaking, you're seeing leaders like Biden, Macron, even Sunak going more towards saying this needs to stop.
In an ideal world, it does need to stop, but there's a mission that needs to be accomplished. And I think everyone from a humanitarian basis is saying, let's pause to allow humanitarian aid. But, you know, it's important to remember on the 6th of October, there was peace. That peace was shattered by Hamas. They can't now dictate. The ceasefire would be handing over victory to Hamas. They will be allowed to get away with it. That cannot happen. Israel has an international right, according to international law, to protect itself. That is what it's doing. It's trying to do so on a humanitarian basis. As evidenced yesterday, aid is coming in. And, you know, this Shifa hospital, we know that Hamas uses human shields around hospitals, around schools. That is their tactic, and that it's designed to inflict massive PR damage to Israel, who have to accomplish this mission.
So they've got to go into the hospital and they've got to go underneath it and find out what's there.
Yeah. I think everyone is in favour. No one wants any innocent people to be murdered, killed.
Okay, so do you think Nick is right? Do you think Starmer's right?
I think Starmer's always said that he wants a pause, not a ceasefire, because a ceasefire will introduce a sort of stagnant state within Gaza, which would allow Hamas to possibly regroup. It is an utterly impossible situation for anybody. It's like Nick, it's like Matt says. It's like, you know, watching the atrocities unfold on television is just awful. And any human being is watching it going, this has to stop. Innocent children being killed is appalling. It is never the right thing to do. However, Israel does have a right to defend itself. The 7th of October was appalling what Hamas did.
Within reason, yeah.
Within reason. And again, Starmer is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't in this situation, because, of course, he is coming off the back of Corbyn's legacy. And he can't be seen, he doesn't want to be seen to be anti-Semitic as well in his approach to this. What his frontbenchers had to do, they are clearly getting a huge amount of pressure from their constituencies, and they had to resign because they were told they would be sacked if they didn't.
It's difficult to argue against a ceasefire when children are dying.
Absolutely.
It's really difficult, right?
It's very, very difficult. I couldn't agree.
And when it's difficult, it means you might not be arguing the right thing.
No, that I don't agree with.
You really think he's right?
I think he has no choice. I don't think anyone has a choice, but I do think there should be pauses for humanitarian aid, 100%.
OK, but that's a matter of ours, and that's a different thing.
But that addresses a lot of the problems.
OK. Anne in Hertfordshire, is Keir Starmer in trouble here?
He's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. I don't think his MPs, because they voted against it, they should never have been made to resign. But he should have encouraged them to vote we need a ceasefire. We need this to stop. It's dreadful watching it on my TV screen. My kids are asking me questions. What's happening? I can't answer it because I don't know. But I don't want to see innocent children killed watching it on the TV. It's disgraceful. It's got to stop. This bloke who started the war's got to be brought down. Someone's going to kill him, I hope. And it's got to stop.
Well, he probably is in Iran, if you're looking at the very top of it.
I don't care. Someone's got to go and find him.
Okay.
And kill him and stop all this tragedy. These poor families are being dispersed all over the place.
Oh, the head of Hamas. Where is the head? Is the head of Hamas still in Gaza? I don't know.
Saudi and Qatar, the three
Right.
that have been referred to recently, were
So they're not
sitting on
even
a pile
there.
of money.
Okay, and thank you. Well, I won't have any argument with any of that, as it's impossible not to be affected by how upset you are. Khalid in London, is Starmer right?
No, his position, morning, everybody. His position is a bit weird in reality. He's firing people, asking people to leave the party if they don't toe his line. I mean, he is a human rights lawyer or barrister from his background. And if he can't see there are human rights violations happening in Gaza at this present time, then there's something fundamentally wrong with his position completely.
So you think if we took a different Keir Starmer who hadn't become Labour leader and who was just the Keir Starmer we knew from 5 years ago, let's say, he would be protesting and marching for a ceasefire, let alone speaking for it, you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what he would be saying. So I think that there is that. So, and the other thing is this war didn't actually start on the 6th or 7th of October. It's been going on for over 100 years. I mean, why are people dying in the West Bank at the present time as well? So I think there are human rights violations going on a daily event before this even happens. But the world just turns a blind eye.
What
So-
about
Go on, Nick. Nick's got a question.
what about the 200 plus hostages that are currently being held in Gaza? What do you say about those?
I mean, there's 1,600 hostages held by Israel without trial. So, I mean, it's tit for tat in reality. I mean, if you watch the Piers Morgan show, there was a comedian on there. There is a currency of war, which basically means for every one Israeli killed, 27 or 28 Palestinians need to be killed in lieu. So at the moment, I think it sounds about 15,000 people have been killed. More people have been killed in 4 weeks than were being killed in the Russian-Ukraine war.
Nick's point...
That's the price of war, isn't it? That's the terrible price of war. I grant you that.
Yeah,
but
there is a
on
price of
the
war,
6th of October, people were getting about their lives quite peacefully, attending a music festival when they were invaded and butchered by Hamas. And Hamas Hamas has about 240 hostages. And I don't hear you anywhere in your statement.
Their whole process is apartheid state. They are controlling every single brown person, every single Palestinian in that region. So,
10%
I mean,
of
imagine living under that regime. I mean, if you're not Jewish, then you're a second-class citizen.
That's complete nonsense. 10% of the occupants of Israel are Arab. They hold positions of high office. They are judges. They have completely normal lives. There's no apartheid at all, and they're very happy to participate and live those lives. What you say is simply not true.
What about in the West Bank, Nick, which is occupied by Israel, is not Israeli land, where settlers have been allowed to build?
Look, there are extremists on both sides, and I'm not suggesting that is right. It's a very complex argument.
It's endorsed by the government.
It's a complex argument because the West Bank, going back a long time, belonged to Israel. That belonged to Israel. The East didn't, the West did. And so it's a case of how far we go back. If we're looking at it since 1948, look at 67, 73, 2005, how far do we want to go back? This is where we are. And we were okay. You know, when the Gaza Strip was handed over, it was a beautiful piece of land, well cultivated, proper infrastructure. A massive amount of money was put into it, and that money has been used to buy rockets, buy weapons, and build tunnels. It's not been invested in the people who are there, and they're paying the price for electing Hamas as their leaders.
Yeah, Zoe, you want to come back on that? You agree with him?
To an extent, I do agree with Nick on this. Yes, and
but the West Bank is illegally occupied under international law, correct? I appreciate historically it was Israel going back. I'm just checking we've got the same facts in front of us here.
Look, I would say that is moot.
That's moot. Okay.
I would say that is moot.
All right.
Because originally I mean, look, that's why I'm asking you, what date are we going from?
No, I understand. Listen, I understand
That's
totally.
the difficulty.
I do understand that
Historically,
completely.
it has been such a complex situation.
I understand. Yeah, but
it's sorted out.
It's called the West Bank because it's the West Bank of Jordan. And I'm just seeing whether. Listen, this is so complicated. Let's go to another call. Kate in London. Hi.
Hello.
Well, do you think? Let's go back to Keir Starmer. Is he right to say to his MPs, "We're not voting for a ceasefire, and if you vote for one, I'm sacking you"?
It's quite honestly outrageous. It's quite hard to find the words to give a response for how bad that is. I mean, Keir Starmer is in danger of becoming the only leader of a major political party in Europe not calling for a ceasefire at this point.
Sunak is shifting, but he hasn't gone there yet, has he? Sorry, go on, Kate.
I was just saying, like, the false equivalency of the narratives on both sides. I mean, I'll speak to just some of the things that your panellists have said there. When we're talking about the numbers of Palestinians killed, it seems to be the unfortunate cost of war, and, the Hamas are hiding in hospitals. And then when we're talking about the Israeli side, it's, people slaughtered. I think the different language is really damaging to the whole debate. I think all the suffering is wrong.
The issue here seems to be whether you say day one of this was October the 7th, or whether you say, no, hang on, that was October the 7th was what happened as a result of years of brutality or whatever.
I think it's very difficult to argue that that's not the case. I mean, this issue did not start on October the 7th. I think most people understand that at this point. And, you can't expect a situation like that to be tenable. I mean, one of your panellists there said everything was going okay at that point before that attack happened. Well, okay for who?
OK, thank you, Kate. Let me go to David in Cumbria just before we end this part. David, what do you want to say about Keir Starmer?
Hi.
Hi, David.
I think they're being unrealistic in the Labour Party because until the hostages are released, there's no chance of a ceasefire because it's not going to happen.
Well, whether going to war with Gaza and Hamas is helping get the hostages out alive, I don't know.
I can't answer that question either because obviously there's a belligerent prime minister in Israel, and we've got a prescribed terrorist group in Gaza, and it's almost like a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hang on, we're human, so we've got to look beyond the rock and the hard place. There's a hell of a lot of children and women in that 2.5 million. You just keep talking over me. OK.
And every death is appalling on either side. But what would you do as Israeli Prime Minister?
I can't. Luckily, I'm not, and I can't answer that. And I don't know what they do about getting those hostages back. I mean, I know we mentioned yesterday, Netanyahu has got pressure from the other side, from parents of hostages marching on the Prime Minister's residence, saying they're not doing enough. So, as Zoe says, it's a thicket. Thank you, David. After the break, we'll